Hello. Some people said my audio was overmodulating in last video, and turns out that it was true. So thankfully I had to back up one of these microphones, so this is a new lav mic. Those things only last so long. I think I got like 5 years worth out of it, so oh well, had to replace it. Hopefully this sounds better. I've already tested this microphone, and it does. I saw where some other people were protesting oil, and they destroyed a priceless piece of beautiful artwork. And it was, supposedly about protesting oil. When someone actually takes a priceless piece of artwork that's irreplaceable and gorgeous, you're not actually saying anything about oil. You're actually saying everything about yourself and the type of darkness that exists within your soul. So I always find it funny when people do stuff like that. And by funny, I mean sad and pathetic, actually. I love doing videos on topics that other people don't cover. I wanted to talk about the great teachings on the great teaching on power. There's 2 different types of power and modalities of power and what people consider about power, and really nobody talks about the metaphysics or the principles of power. And there's 3 different types that people go for, and 2 different types fundamentally. So I'd love to go over that. And of course there's various things that people imbue with power, and these are actually how talismans work, and also 2 icons that people imbue with power, on and on and on. So people, of course, superficially, this is kind of obvious. I've brought this up before, that people will worship and imbue things with power, such as icons and brand icons and things that people notice, like, I don't know, the golden arches or certain corporate icons, golden calves, effigies, flags, talismans, names and titles. And if people want control over others, and they can get you to follow and like these things, these symbols, especially corporate symbols. You cleave towards certain things. Oh, that's brand so-and-so. I'm dedicated to that brand. I really like it. I'm going to buy more of it. And then, of course, people siphon money off of you because you've now created a talisman out of a corporate vortex, an icon that you'll throw your money into. And, of course, this gives them power to buy more things and have more control over you, more control over other people. By the way, what's happening in this world right now, these past several, all of this power-mongering, or you could call it tyranny, it would all actually end overnight if, but for the fact that you and countless other people refuse to use a 2-letter magic word, and that is no. That's actually a really important form of power. You can't have the 0.0001% of humanity with power over 99.999% of the rest of the world without their complicit, whether it is conscious or unconscious, approval. The fact that you and countless others refuse to say no is a submission. When you actually refuse, then you're giving submission to something. It's like, well, they didn't push back, so I guess we're okay to go ahead with it. They don't actually say this out loud, except amongst themselves, but this is incredibly true, and nobody talks about this, and I wish more people would consider that. Yeah. Their power actually requires, kind of like you getting maple syrup. They go in the woods and they tap the maple trees. It's a little bit of drip, drip of the sugar water. You're allowing them to siphon off. Doesn't look like much if you actually see the little drip, drip of the maple, the sugary water, very watery sap coming out of those maple trees. But I've seen them in the forest. They'll like have thousands of trees tapped, and all the lines are running into one major line. And then you get these enormous amounts of runny liquid, and they boil it down. You get condensed power, in that case maple syrup, and that's what they're doing to humanity, and you're complicit. Your power is what feeds their actual power. By the way, this is something else that you were not taught in high school or college, but you certainly should have, is that anybody that wants any power or control over you should never, ever, ever be given that power. I mean, doesn't that just go without saying? Have you ever considered that? So this guy wants some control over me and my fellow kinsfolk. That's the very reason why they should never have it. Plato and Socrates and others had answers to that. They would take the 10 wisest men of the land and who had no horse in the game, as they say, and they would choose against that person's will. No, I don't want to do it. No, it's a terrible job. No, no, you need to do it. The 10 wisest of us have chosen you to take control of them. I don't want the darn job. I don't want it. No, 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 you need to for the... All right. That's how things should work. But they don't work. Yeah, they don't. Really, the fact that people who are swayed by their TV set, that they are allowed to imbue others with power and vote is rather astonishing. There's an old saying, would you ever trust your life to 12 fools who couldn't get out of jury duty? Just think about that one for a second. Would you trust your life to 12 fools that couldn't get out of jury duty? Or would you trust those who have control and power over you to dictate what you can and can't do, to be chosen by the least intelligent entities that walk on this earth barely on 2 feet? And the answer should be no. So, anyway, there's 2 types of power. There's the power, and there's the metaphysics behind this. It's actually quite profound, and it's also too undeniable. Nobody talks about this. Never heard anybody anywhere at any point in time talk about it, but there are 2 types of power. There's the power of force, and there's the power of inertia. Now, the power of inertia is rest, and it kind of harkens back to that old saying that empty vessels make the biggest noises. People like the Bruce Lees of the world, not that I'm singling out Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee and who's the guy with the red hair and the red mustache? Chuck Norris. All of these are very quiet people. You know, they're not flailing their arms around and talking about how great they are. These are the people with real skills. There are many people out there. Those are the guys that aren't, you know, flapping their lips and yelling, you know, in various parts of society. People holding up, you know, their own little slogan on a cardboard sign on the end of a stick and marching. These are not the people that should be listened to, by the way. Anyway, there's the 2 types of power. There's the power of force, and then there's the power of inertia. Human beings, unfortunately, see force as a type of power, but it's actually the dissipation of true power, which is rest or inertia. Force is either directed objectively over others, or it is directed at existential, subjective control. The true type of power is one of rest or inertia, of pure potential. And this, of course, is the entire premise of transcendence and liberation. It is a type of true power. And it's always the power that's directed inwards, and by inwards I don't mean psychophysical inwards, rather subjective and metaphysical inwards, such that you are at rest as against the rest of the world and all its drama and nuances that are not conducive to awakening, comprehension, understanding, and specifically wisdom. Of course, wisdom and awakening and liberation are essentially the exact same reference. Anyway, there's 3 levels of power. The 2 levels of power, which are work and force. I cut my finger really bad. If you wonder why I got a Band-Aid on my finger. There's the objective power of force over things and over others. This is the arena of politicians and generals and tinfoil hat despots that desire objective, and this, of course, is evil and demonic. And once again, anybody that wants power over others in general or in specific is definitionally evil. And it is an extremely, extremely sad state of commentary upon society that they let people that want such power to be given that power, and woe unto those that give it to them. You're, I'm sure, actually complicit in that as well, unfortunately, to either a greater or lesser degree, and a lot of people are. I am not. And you should make yourself sovereign and away from that ever-giving power, and actually imbuing people with power. Like, I have a power, look at this, I got a badge here. It's like, yeah, but you're a despot, you know. I know you think you get control over me, but you don't. You can do things, but you'll never have control over me because you're an evil person that wants control over other people. Now, control over people for the superficial, and I don't mean bad superficial, but for the prima facie wholesome desire, there's two types of desire, wholesome and unwholesome, to help people. Like I have, say, XYZ power to help people, and I use this in limited fashion so that I could help my fellow man for their own protection. And of course, this is how petty despots always start out. Those little rationalize things to themselves, but if you use it in a judicious sense, from grounds of wisdom and to true knowledge, then you would actually never rationalize it. You would use it in a limited spectrum as needed for someone's genuine protection, but unfortunately most people don't. So anyway, 3 levels of power. Work and force. One is objective over others, which is the most evil form. There's a less evil form, but it's still a work and force. This is existential or subjective. People are talking about, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to, go lift weights and eat, eat special noodles and fruits and veggies. I'm going to be perfect health, and, I'm going to leave the healthiest looking corpse at the time of my passing, and, I'm going to train my mind in such a way that I am as happy and cheerful for the rest of my life as possible. This still requires work and force, and it can't be maintained for very long, and it always must terminate, and all of that work is lost because it's in regards to the psychophysical or existential self. So that is also too work and force. So that's the second modality. The third modality, which is best, which is based in inertia or true power, and that's metaphysics of rest, where you're actually cultivating disobjectification, the removal of primordial agnosis, false identification, the removal of fears, anger, hatred, attachments, on and on and on and on, all of which are forms of modulation, which is definitionally rest, and that, of course, is true power. That's the only power that can be maintained at the point of breakup between body and spirit, conventionally called death. Here's something else that I've always found irksome my entire life, literally, and is that every animal on Earth, of whatever variety, it either has its own little power of defense of self and others and family, be it fangs or claws or venom, and even us two-legged creatures should, if anybody has respect for their fellow citizen, the right to protect themselves and their children and their family. Many despots, and there are countless ones in the world right now, don't actually believe in that. They don't believe that the citizens of XYZ location have the rights that any common animal has. Animals have claws and teeth and fangs and various other devices for save of their own self-salvation, existential salvation from danger. And I find it extremely reprehensive, and repulsive that so many entities don't believe in imbuing the power of defense to fellow citizens. I've always been for that, and I find that incredibly horrific. I'd like to talk some of the tools of power too, and self-empowerment, which is a form of power. By the way, no one's ever talked about this before either, and human beings and their strange oddities and their desire for power, either to self-empower or to have power of others. There's metals of power within humanity. It kind of sounds like something from a fantasy series like DC or Marvel or something. But the metals of power, it's kind of, there are only three groups of them, really. You know, there's some outliers there. There's the metals of commerce, which is, of course, its own type of power. Commerce, combat, and the metals of catastrophe. The metals of commerce are gold, silver, platinum. There's a few others. And that is itself a type of power. Some people, a rational person that wants money, which is itself a type of power, I mean, it gives you independence. If you lack independence, that means someone has power over you. So these metals of commerce, gold and silver and paper, is just a derivative, or at least it was originally, of gold and silver, i.e. the gold standard, for example, and plastic, such as credit cards and so forth. That people would want this mean they're independent of other people telling them what to do. Like, you got to work 9 to, like, no, I don't. I got money. I'm going to go take a vacation to Hawaii. I'm going to go do what I want. That itself is a type of power. So that's the metals of commerce, gold and silver, generally. There's some outliers there. Platinum, palladium, rhodium, so on and so forth. But the metals of commerce. Barring that, if someone doesn't have the metals of commerce, what they'll entail, and this is true since the dawn of time, the metals of combat. So we got commerce, and then we have the metals of combat. The metals of combat, in its crudest form, is steel. Yeah? I think you know what I'm talking about. Steel. Metals of steel. Then we have the other metal of combat, which is lead. I'll let you figure out what that means. Thirdly, we have the metals of despots and super large bodies which stand behind a flag. And these are the metals of catastrophe. And the metals of catastrophe are uranium and plutonium. So the metals of power being commerce, combat, and catastrophe. Gold, silver, steel, and lead, and then uranium and plutonium. Isn't it neat how that works out? It's almost like it's by divine providence that things work out like that. Isn't that strange? I'd like to hear your commentary on that one. Tools of power, flags, icons, talismans, beliefs, gold, silver. Fear is a really good one. Supercomputers and psychological analysis. Governments now are employing a tool of fear. I mean, it really good. Works really, really good on people that have not so sharp a mind, because with fear you can manipulate anybody into doing anything or believing anything or following anything. That's very unfortunate. You have the tools of influence and laws and people that exercise, unfortunately, not for the betterment of other people in society, which is why somebody should be given, like, say, the 10 masters would give somebody for a period of time, mastery, the power over others, but in the premise of protection and defense and betterments. Like, well, we have this law and I'm going to exercise this law so that you people are safe from, say, invaders, or you're safe from, you know, all sorts of bad things, and that's what I'm here for, is to care about you. And that's the way it should be, but unfortunately it isn't that way. So, influence and laws, once again, steel and lead, uranium, plutonium. Here we are to enter into self-empowerment, the power of self-empowerment. And that's really fundamentally no different than the metals of commerce and the subset of gold and silver, that of course being paper money, and of course paper money is being very quickly supplanted. And this is the reason why they want CBDC, by the way. One of the bane of every government on this earth is, even though it's becoming more and more worthless every day, the bane of their existence is cash, which is generally so untrackable. And they can't have that anyway. They want every little thing to be tracked. They want more and more and more tyranny and power over you and me. And the way to do that is to eliminate it. And we'll have digital flatulence, crypto flatulence. This, of course, is not money. It's not a... ignorant people out there will say that crypto is ease and it's the future. That's about 1% true. 99% is it's the medium for absolute hegemonic totalitarian control over everybody in this world. It's not real money. It doesn't exist. It requires electricity to work. It requires the internet to work. It requires the network for it to work. And it requires a lot of foolish people to believe in it for it to actually work. But the government wants you to believe in it because their days of worrying over untraceable cash are essentially over. I mean, that's the last leg of power that they want. Is they cannot have money going from A to B to C and back again without them knowing about every little bit of it. And this is 99% of the reason of CBDC. People that believe in crypto are deluding themselves because Bitcoin was probably created by the government, the CIA, NSA, probably was as a test ground for people to get addicted to something that is the very egg, the very genesis, the very epicenter of their greatest desire to have total control over you and everybody else. And people really can't see it, and that's exactly what it is. I'm sure that Bitcoin actually was not created by Satoshi, but rather by NSA or CIA. Anyway, self-empowerment, the power of things that will empower you away from tyranny and hegemonic control. Wisdom, knowledge, land, tools, skill, water, food, seeing the fallacies of other people and, of course, the government in specific. Books of knowledge that are helpful. I mean, it's the reason why I have 14 terabytes of PDF books. My main collection is just shy of 1 terabyte. I mean, that's a massive amount of books, and it's the best of the best of the best. I have multiple copies of it myself. I have multiple copies of it around the world in other people's hands. I can carry an entire compendium of bottomless information on how to do and build things, the very, very best metaphysics books that exist, and I can carry it on a little chip that's, not much bigger than really about the same size as a postage stamp. And that's one of the great things I do love about technology. You ultimately only have, and same with me and every other person, only one power, and that is over your mastery of that which you truly are, ab extra, the psychophysical, your metaphysical self. You don't even have power over your existential self. People that eat and train perfectly, and I used to be in basically perfect shape, literally 600 sit-ups a day without fail. Believe it or not, I don't care if you believe me, but I've got the pictures to prove it. You can't maintain that. I've known a few people that were they watched every gram that they ate, and they exercised, their bottoms off. It's you can only maintain it for so long. And some of these people were just pure muscle, and they were just peak of perfection. So they can't maintain it. They themselves will admit to you, you can't. Some people almost have, but they'll tell you can't maintain it. It consumes your entire life, and in the end, it's going to collapse. You're sitting there polishing the brass in the Titanic. You're polishing the poo. Can't polish a poo. You can say you can do it literally, and I know that episode on Mythbusters or whatever. You really can't specifically polish a poo. And you didn't understand what types of power there are in this world. Consider the power that gives self-empowerment to you, your loved ones, and your family, such as wisdom, knowledge, land, tools, skills, food, and what. When you can, you've got your own electrical setup via solar or whatever you choose, and you have a bottomless supply of water, a bottomless supply of firewood, and you have land enough to feed yourself. And, you don't have to be rich to have these things. You think I'm rich? I've got what do I have now? I think I got $180 in my bank account. Yeah? I don't care if you like me or hate me. Anybody that thinks that I'm anything even within a million miles of rich, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. My farmland was $240 an acre. Yeah, $240 an acre, 75 acres for $18,300. So yes, do I have land? Yes, I do, but there's a reason why, and that's, the detestment of drama. The Sannyasins, the true masters of the ancient world, specifically in India, were forest dwellers. Why do you think they dwelt in the forest? They'd have to wander into town every day to get their begging bowls filled with some food, but they'd wander back out into the forest. They had no interest in the drama and the laws and the nonsense of society and their power mongering over others. Laws, police, the government, all these things only exist to keep evil and ignorant people in check. If somebody follows natural order and they have a drop of wisdom, they have absolutely no need of either laws or anybody's tyranny over them. All of this is drama. It's counterproductive to wisdom and illumination. And just remember, the fundamental premise of the different types of power that they are. Two types of power. One is force-based and the other one is inertia-based. And the three levels of power. Those who want control over things outside of them. So they don't have control over themselves. The fact that any of these countless entities want control over other people tells you how evil and ignorant they fundamentally are, undeniably so. And then there's, of course, the force and motion desire of power over your existential self, which can only last so long. You can only keep it up so long. And then there's true power, which, of course, is based in inertia, i.e. rest. That is, of course, true power. And don't stop, start saying no, to the world, because all of this stuff would end overnight that's going on right now, but for the fact that you and countless others will not say no. It's like, no, I will not. Doesn't matter what happens to me, no is the answer. No, I will. You want me to do what? No, I will not. You don't have any power over me. You're not my mother and my father, and the answer is no. No. Oh, this is your private property? That's fine. I could spend another penny with you. I always have other options. I'll buy my widgets or my milk or my strawberries from Joe Blow down the street that's not a power-mad tyrant like you are. Go ahead. No, the answer is no, will not. No, you have no power over me. You could do things, that would affect my life, but I still will not submit. Most people need to think like this. And I think a lot of people are just like spineless, jello-minded soy boys. And soy boys, the first thing a soy boy does is surrender the little power that they have to somebody else. Oh, you want control over me? That's okay. Go ahead and tell me what to do. Go ahead and put the dog leash around me. Woof, woof, woof. You want me to sit? You want me to beg for food? Run around in circles? Want me to bark? No. No. I don't know what it is you think of me, and it's none of my concern at all, but Tattooed Monkey is not a soy boy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Remember to contact me. My information in the description below, including a lot of free books and articles that I've written, which are also free. Lux Evertas.